Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel and welcome to a brand new episode of Definitive Discussion Rebooted. This is my show, my talk show podcast, where I bring on phenomenal individuals from all over around the internet, the gaming industry, and we talk about a whole bunch of really cool stuff. If you guys haven't already, please check out the previous episodes. I have a lot of great guests that have been on the show, a lot of great topics that we deep dived into, and a lot of fun that I know you guys are really going to enjoy. And also, don't forget, there's also the Patreon exclusive EX mode of every single one of these episodes where we get even more fun discussion that you guys definitely need to check out. There's links in the description box below. It's at the dollar level or higher. You get those bonus episodes plus a ton of other exclusive content. But today, the reason why you guys are going to want to dive into all this stuff, because I got a cool guest with me. I've got Nintendo Daan Koopman, who pretty much does a ton of Nintendo content online, including Nintendo World Report, GoNintendo, does some stuff for GameXplain. There's a lot of Nintendo that's happening. But Daan, thanks for coming to talk to me. What's good?
No worries. How are you? I'm doing great. For me, it's like Monday evening when we talk. For you, it's like afternoon.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just had dinner, so I'm just relaxing with a nice talk here, which sounds perfect for this time of day.
Right? Like you're chilling out and we're just getting up. Like we actually got to do stuff over here on this side of the hemisphere.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, so the reason why I wanted to bring you on the show, again, because I wanted to talk Nintendo with someone that knows Nintendo. And again, you've been doing this stuff for a while. You got a big following on social media. You did stuff for Nintendo World Report. You do a lot of reviews on big Nintendo games, especially first party stuff. You do stuff with GameXplain. Again, you do stuff for GoNintendo. Are you one of those people out there like putting out all the constant news on GoNintendo? Because I know I see a lot of tweets.
Yeah, I do most of the European quote unquote shifts, like the ones that fell in the European afternoon and as so much early America time. So, say EST wise, that would be it would be like 6 a.m. to 12
on EST time, or is that European?
Yeah, in the EST time. Yeah, okay. EST time.
That's a lot. That's pretty early for us. We're over here sleeping, complaining we didn't get enough coffee, and you're over here working. You see, making us look bad.
Well, that's the thing. It's for me, it would be then 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. So, and in the morning, I usually work on some video stuff. So I'm always busy every day.
That's good, though. I mean, again, because like I said, you do a lot of content, which is great, and a lot of people really appreciate that because obviously you guys got a lot of big following. Again, your social media following as well is pretty big and appreciates that. I want to know though, from your perspective, as someone else who really covers Nintendo, that really gets into the nitty gritty of like observing them as a company and a lot of the games that comes out. I mean, what is that like for you? Difficult, challenging? Because even for me, so again, I'm getting close to the decade mark of being part of the games industry, and there's all these different facets and complications and a lot of stuff about covering all different types of companies, not just Nintendo. Sometimes it could be really easy, it could be really fun, it could be really challenging, it could be really difficult. There's a lot of different things that a lot of the normal people don't really get to see or talk about. But for you, specifically for Nintendo, I mean, what's that been like?
Well, I've been doing this for almost 14 years. And even realize that makes me very old.
We're getting old.
We're getting really old. What I think about every single time is how different Nintendo is as a company. Because most people who likely listen to it as fans. Like they observe games and just say, "Oh, they're like the best company in the world," which is fine. As a company, though, they are very different. They are sometimes extremely difficult to work. Complicated is also a good word for, but I would say more difficult. You can get through them. You will have to adjust to them, and you have to show them that you're dedicated in doing this. And it took me for the longest time to make that happen, but now I feel more relieved. And it's always been a constant struggle. Like there will be no one who will tell you who's starting a new website or a new company or something like an outlet that Nintendo is easy to work with. No, they have very specific restrictions and they want you to abide by them. And that's at the end of the day, that is their right. They are a company, but they're so inherently different from anybody else. They do it by their own rules.
That is so true. That is, so, I mean,
Yeah.
as someone that's been doing this stuff, again, you've been doing a little bit longer than me, but I could really relate to that because I've had my own experience. I've had some crazy horror stories, like dealing with Nintendo, like, because you want to cover their games, you want to talk about them, you want to tell these people, like, hey, these Nintendo games are great or whatever else, you want to actually continue those discussions and conversations going. And sometimes for me, like in my own personal experience, it's been like a
Right.
chore to try to actually just get even a little bit ahead to try to do something like that. Like, do you have any horror stories or even like rough times that you went through as far as like trying to do like content about Nintendo games? Like for me, it was at E3. Like usually that's always chaotic, especially if, like when you want to go cover a Nintendo game. Like I've only been to one, was it Nintendo booth tour? That's where they take you around. For anybody listening now, that's where they take you around and they actually show you some of the games that are on display there, and you get to go play them and do demos and stuff. But what about for you though?
I think like the biggest like war stories are always during a Gamescom. Not for me to E3. E3 feels more structured in that way.
Yeah.
Because the room is more restrained and you know what you're getting with a Nintendo booth at E3. Like they always have the same amount of press area space. They have the same amount of booth space
Same
at
spot.
E3.
Literally.
Same spot too. Yeah, always. With Gamescom, it always fluctuates. They spent the last 2 years in particularly a lot of space on smaller space for their games. So last year they did focus a lot on Smash, and obviously so because they didn't have that many other games to show. But what they tried to do with their Gamescom booth is very interesting. So they dedicate a space of like they choose 10 eShop games to promote at one side of the booth. So they put a big highlight on them. They do those indie highlight presentations just before Gamescom. Those are their highlights for that show. They showcase their current lineup of games, which are then running from September to October. So stuff like Super Mario Party was there last year, which wasn't playable at E3.
Yeah.
They focus a lot more on the next 2 months and a little further ahead. And the amount of space they dedicate to their games and also third-party games, like key third-party games that they think is interesting to promote, is insanity. So sometimes you also have the feeling that there's a press booth, which is in a separated business area, but not every game is always there, so you always have to go to the public halls anyway. And if you've ever been to the public days of Gamescom, I can tell you, being there is absolute madness.
Oh, wow.
It's the biggest show
Period. I think.
in the western side of the world. I think that Tokyo Game Show can be a bit larger at times, but like from the Western perspective, there are about close to 500,000 people going to Gamescom every single year at this point. And it's like Gamescom occupies every single hall of that convention center, which is like 5 or 6 times the convention center at E3.
That's insane. Like, because again, since I just went to E3, like not even a couple weeks ago, like it's just insane to think about that. Like, as far as like the amount of chaos that's like going on there, because you got people running around checking out the convention, you got people running around going to appointments. Like things could get adjusted and like, out of whack, I can imagine. But even just, again, just still focusing on Nintendo though, like in your experience and stuff, like, one of my biggest horror stories I've ever had at an E3, like going to cover Nintendo, is when they told me to go cover a game, or at least the rep at the time, again, things have changed, so don't get mad at me, Nintendo. Things have changed since then, where the rep had told me like, okay, come to the booth or come to like the desk at this time, and then you could go get like your booth tour and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, cool. When I went there, the person at the desk didn't let me go, even though I had like an email and confirmation, like, showing them and stuff. And it was really difficult, like going back and forth with them, and be like, hey, listen, why don't you guys want me to talk about your games? Like, I don't understand the problem. Like, have you ever had something, maybe not exactly that, but on that level, where things just had to be audible on the play?
I think there's enough time passed to tell this story. Okay. So with the Wii U launch.
Wii U launch. Okay, here we go. I know it's gonna be good.
So we had a launch party for the Wii U, which I've been talking to people from people who work at Nintendo there, and they are not proud of what they did there. They invited a bunch of local celebrities and what have you, and I tried to make it a very fancy party, like there was a dress code.
Really? You guys had a dress code? It was fancy?
They had a dress code for the Wii U launch party, yes.
Nice.
So it was not very gamer-ish. Like there were games to play, like at booths there, it didn't feel like much of a gamer party. Like they tried to get like actual celebrities there and have you. So the situation was here is that they didn't get a pre-launch Wii U for review, and it was still pre-launch Wii U, like a week out from the actual launch of the system. There was a pre-launch party.
Was it final console, like final games, like builds and stuff?
Yeah. So what they did, they were giving Wii U deluxe packs to every single celebrity they were there. So I had the awkward conversation with my PR people from, is it possible to get the Wii U deluxe pack so I can review it? And they were looking very awkwardly. Well, we don't know if that's possible. And then the awkward point was there that I pointed out from, well, look at the bunch of Wii U's you have there stacked up behind you.
Oh man, that's got to be awkward. Oh my god.
So they did end up sending me a Wii U on launch day, and it wasn't a very pleasant experience to get it all arranged because they were asking me again which stuff that I do. And at that point, I was already working at GoNintendo and ended up UR. So,
yeah,
which made it even weirder, to be honest.
I can imagine with that. Like, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like, there are times even with my own experience, like again, and we're not saying this to crap on Nintendo. Like again, like it can be amazing covering these games. It could be amazing, working with them to go see new stuff and bring that content to your audience and stuff. But there are those moments that are like, little ebbs and flows that happen here and there. It's like one of the things that always got to me, trying to cover Nintendo throughout the years was the inconsistency sometimes. Like there was a point in my own experience where I was a Nintendo brand ambassador for my own stuff with the Coalition at the time. And it's like, I think I was there for like about a year that I did that. And then just randomly, because of other stuff that happens with other creators, they changed up the whole Nintendo brand ambassador program and dropped it as a Nintendo brand ambassador. And I was like, but I didn't do anything bad. I'm over here covering games and talking about games and hitting my embargo dates, never breaking an embargo and like doing stuff like that. So there was like a little bit of frustration like there. So I could empathize with that a little bit.
Yeah, for me, the situation is different though, because I was already actively media. Like, I wasn't really being a YouTuber. Like, I did the YouTube stuff at the side on my own channel, and I still kind of do. Like, I have less time for it now, but I kind of want to get back into it. But for the most part, I still do like the regular media stuff, like writing reviews and what have you.
Yeah.
So that made the situation for me a little bit more awkward and not really sure where to go from there. But yeah, it worked out in the end. But there are moments like this where they don't behave like any other company, and it gets better over time as long as you work with them. Don't get me wrong; like I've been doing this for 14 years now, and I finally feel like I'm getting a grip on them.
Yeah.
But I am not jealous of anybody who's trying to do this anew, like with a new outlet or trying to be a new influencer with their YouTube or their Twitch or doing anything in the similar like. This is now currently way more of a uphill battle than it was when I started.
Oh, yeah, I could definitely agree with that. And I think that also a lot of it, there's a lot of different treatment that's there. I think it's safe to say that, especially, with established creators or new creators. And even then, between media and content creators, I think there's a little disparity there.
There's even the disparity between different medias.
Very true.
Like some get access to previews while others doesn't. And I think that's a bad thing. I think that everybody should be ready to play on the same playing field, because I feel that there are a lot of passionate creators and outlets out there, like within the media, that don't get as much attention, but it would kill for such an opportunity to do a preview.
I agree. And I think also that there are instances like that where some of those people that are like that would love to get those opportunities sometimes do even better content than some of the ones that are actually getting that access like that. Because I've always seen throughout the years, and it's not just Nintendo, I've seen it at other companies where, sometimes the access that's being given out is not utilized to the best of its ability, or it's utilized just to brag that you have the access. And I think that's a little, not only disrespectful to the company that's giving you that access, but also disrespectful to the audience. I feel like that could be a little bit, it gets into other discussions and stuff, and that gets a little bit crazy. But I want to ask you though, with all that being said though, do you think that maybe Nintendo doesn't always have the best grasp when it comes to actually allowing that type of coverage to be done, or allowing different individuals or entities to go cover their games, as opposed to maybe other companies like you mentioned before, they're unlike any other company that's around. Like the relationships and the experiences I've had with third party publishers has never been on the whole up and down level sometimes as I usually do with Nintendo.
Yeah, Nintendo is extremely different in a way, and once again, it's extremely hard to get a good grasp on them. Like even now, it's you feel kind of awkward to such situations because
Exactly.
you have to ask them those questions about. Well, I heard about this. Is there anything you can tell me? And half of the time the answer is no, and half of the time they don't really know what to tell you. And that is more played from the upper end of the spectrum and not to the end where we are interacting with them. They're told from up high to only tell this stuff, only do this.
Hmm.
Um, it's weird, and I'm easily going to say I'm privileged to even get to do what I get to do
Of course,
within
yeah.
the Nintendo realm. But there are still moments or times where I wonder if things could be slightly better or even better than they are now. Because even I am not on the highest level possible with this stuff.
I agree.
I am not even the closest of the highest level of this stuff, and I've been doing this for quite a while.
Now, that being said, however, I do want to add, when it is good, it's very good. It's very fun. Like the best
Yeah,
time when I finally got my booth tour at E3 and I got to go that was the year where Smash Ultimate was coming out,
for
Overcooked
sure.
2 and Starlink was out, and I got to preview those games with the Nintendo rep and sit there and not have to worry about lines and actually play those games and take it in. That was fun to me because then I could get my
Yeah,
questions like asked, I could see the games. They allowed you to like really play the games. Like it's different sometimes compared to other like E3 appointments where you go and it's a little bit more chaotic because they want to rush you out because there's so many people and other appointments they got to deal with. I didn't feel like that when I went there, and like moments like that could be fun when you're trying to make content,
yeah, for sure. Absolutely, for sure.
which is great. Now, I do also want to ask, like, because again, you've done both written and also video content when it comes to Nintendo, games or just covering games in general. Which one do you feel like is the more fun or the more easier to do when it comes to Nintendo games specifically? Because obviously, there's a lot happening now with the Nintendo Switch. Obviously, there's all this new stuff that's been
Right.
dropping over the last couple months. We got games literally that just came out not too long ago that are exclusive to Switch and stuff. I mean, when you're usually doing this stuff, which one do you usually defer to at first?
I always preferred writing. Like I've been from origin much more from a writer. It's not against video. I think video is fun too. But there are specific things that you need to keep in mind in video, or certain tricks or certain editing skills that you have to apply to get a video nice and wrapped up. I also have to figure out which footage to use, whatever. With an article, it becomes a lot more focused because you're focused on getting a singular entity out of the door. And there are not a lot of different parts attached to it. And sometimes there will be another video review attached to it, but these days over an NWR, because I'm so busy with reviews, I have another person who looks at that side now so that I can focus on the written side of things, which is the most important and first thing that should happen.
I agree.
Um,
I can empathize with that.
But yeah, no disrespect to either side. Like either side is a whole lot of fun and a good stuff to work on. But it gets increasingly harder when you have a more like try to have a more varied life,
Yeah.
or at least a high quality. So my first focus is always getting a written version of it done, despite if it is for a video or for an actual written review, and then see where we go from there.
Do you usually find that sometimes the two can bleed into each other? Like for me, perfect example, I would write up something in one place, but then I would probably have like other ideas that come along with it. So I would take that same thing and maybe modify a little bit and do like a VO over like gameplay and whatever I'm like related to. I've done that a few times with even stuff that I've done with the coalition where it's like, I felt like it added a little bit more, not only with the visual representation that's there with that, whatever game I'm talking about, but even where I could just change and tinker a little bit of my thoughts.
Right. That stuff is really hard to figure out because you don't know what's going to work well in a video environment or in a written environment. I mostly stick to writing, and if somebody says, "Hey, that's good," we'll work it out from there. If it's specifically just for video, then already writing it with video in mind. So that's the key distinction for me.
I feel it. I think that's pretty interesting. Again, a little bit of a different perspective, or a little similar to my own, but a little bit different, as opposed to what I've had from different guests that have come on the show. Again, I've had different content creators that have covered Nintendo excessively, and they usually go to the opposite side of that, or they'll say a little bit different because they feel obviously they're much more in tune with the video aspect of things. And so,
That's fair. That's totally fair.
Now, what do you think about that, though, when it comes to a lot of content creators really covering Nintendo now these days? Because obviously the rules and the environment has changed now, because Nintendo used to be very closed off when it came to YouTubers, Twitch streamers, like covering their games or just doing stuff with their games. I mean, do you think obviously things have improved, or do you think like things have changed a little bit for better or worse?
Yes and no. I don't think necessarily the access to games has become better for that type of content. Because you still have to convince them that you have good intentions with that stuff. On the other hand, they relax their rules a whole lot more when it comes to videos. So even if you don't necessarily get the blessing of them, you can still do a lot of good within your own perspective. So yeah, it's a really hard twofold, because I do think that the environment of covering Nintendo in general is a whole lot better and a lot more free than it used to be all the way back when they kind of were super reluctant against YouTube and streaming and anything similar.
True.
But they don't take a lot of people in. They are still very closed off in that specific way. They are less closed off against traditional media, and I had to also really fight for this position. So I'm happy that they sort of still feel that way. At the same time, there's a lot of newer media that also does a whole lot of good.
I agree.
So it's rough, Once again, it's a twofold. It's not an easy subject to handle, and especially I think that within Nintendo, there's a lot of debate to be had between the Western and the Japanese side.
It's complicated.
But we'll see, Yeah, we'll see, Maybe it gets better over time. We don't know. Hopefully it will. I would love to see it be that way, but you never know. You never know for sure.
True.
Because they are so unpredictable as a company.
I will say, though, that I've noticed a little bit things changing in different ways ever since, obviously, when Iwata passed, when there's a lot, obviously the new president, was it Doug Bowser and all these other people really changing, positions or people that are up there at the heads of stuff, and just look, I guess, maybe getting that fresher perspective or a different type of perspective than what they've had for a long time. We're starting to see little things pop up here and there, which I think is going to benefit them in the long run. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to benefit everybody in the long run, just overall. But Daan, thank you so much for chatting with me about Nintendo, covering Nintendo stuff. We're going to talk more on EX mode for the Patreons, but where can everybody find you right now? You're on the socials, correct?
Yes, you can find me on the socials on Twitter, which is @Nintendo, NANT and DAN. Same for Instagram. Don't post as much there, but hey, I post some cool pictures now and again on there. For the rest, you can find links to all of I do mostly on Twitter. So if I do a review or a specific video over on GameXplain, GoNintendo, and Nintendo World Report, I usually link to that from there. Yeah, that's about it.
Nice. Yeah, and there'll be links in the description box below so you guys can go directly to all that stuff. Go send him some owl hugs because he's over here working hard, doing Nintendo stuff. You guys love Nintendo. Go appreciate it. You know what? Go send him gifts or pictures of the owl from The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Let's do that. That'll be funny. That'll be hilarious.
If you do want to do one up better, send me gifts of either Rowlet or Wooper.
Oh, yes. Rowlet. Yes, I'm going to send you a whole bunch of Rowlets. That's what's going to go down.
Yeah, or Wooper. Wooper is the most amazing Pokemon. I keep saying that. And everybody asking, why is Wooper so amazing? If you have that big of a smile without having arms to hold anything onto, you are a freaking trooper.
That is some deep stuff to think about, but I'm still going to send you an army of Rowlets. Just a bunch of them. Just going to show up. It's going to be a bunch of them.
That's fine.
Yeah, hilarious. But thank you so much, Daan, for talking with me. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, let me know in the comments section down below. Tell me if you guys enjoyed all the discussion we had about Nintendo and everything else related to it. Also, don't forget to leave a like on this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos just like this one. Again, we're going to be back again real soon with the EX mode. If you guys want to check that out, make sure you guys join up on my Patreon page, patreon.com/JakeJamesLugo. For the $1 level or higher, you're not only going to get this bonus episode, but you're going to get a ton of other episodes and a lot of other exclusive extra content that I know you guys are going to love. From the both of us here, we will talk to you again very soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.